grand final of St Andrews Open 2034. Congratulations to all teams for making it this far. My name is Zainab. I'll be your chair for this round. Much regard for she, her. Paneling with me from left to right, we have
Owen, Hidai, Neva.
Alyssa, Neva, Zainab.
Okay, standing orders are the same as every other round we've done. You should know them by now. 7-minute speeches, first and last minute protected, all for POIs, it's really good for engagement. In terms of timekeeping, does anyone have the timekeep app?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll use that. Go through a day. We should make sure the day is like audible in case it's not. If your phone's broken, I can just...
No.
Oh, I don't want to do it. Okay.
I've got it.
Is the day allowed to do that still? Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, cool. Yes, I don't think there's anything else. Oh, your guys' introduction. I forgot about that. Oh my god. Okay, team by team then. Starting with opening government.
Harvey Olden, speaking first. He him.
Joseph. No. Here they.
Woo! Then in opening opposition.
Cyrus, he him speaking first.
Woo!
Freddy speaking second. Here they.
Woo! Opening government.
William speaking first. In preference.
Woo!
Alyssa speaking second. Then.
Woo! And then in closing opposition.
Cara speaking first, no preference.
Woo!
Half second. Neva.
Woo! Excellent, okay. I think that's everything out of the way. Good luck to all teams. Without any further ado, I invite the Prime Minister to begin to speak to their side.
To this day, no one has achieved what you have done today. You have just created something resembling a human intelligence, something with the ability to learn, grow, and adapt. No mind has been able to conceive of anything even remotely close to this. In fact, many have theorized that it is essentially impossible. We will prove to you that you have created something so incomprehensible, so innately dangerous, that you have a principled moral duty to destroy it. I would first of all like to make a clarification. Whilst we do have artificial intelligence in our world, it is not the likes of what is established in this motion. Most of the artificial intelligence which we have is only good at incredibly narrow tasks. Sure, it can identify when a cat is on screen incredibly well, but if you ask it to make a pot of coffee, none of those words remotely mean anything to it. This is fundamentally distinct from something which shows distinct signs of intelligence, general ability to adapt, to do more than one circumstance, to learn. This is something far beyond anything which we have ever created. I would like to note that this is necessarily going to be vastly more powerful than anything we have had before. I would like to say that when artificial intelligence is developed, it's self-modifying. As in, because this is just physically impossible for someone to code all the lines of code directly necessary to approximate a brain in any capacity, you need to be able to do this algorithmically. The way you do this is by setting this AI a goal and having it expand upon these tasks. What this specifically means then is that as it improves upon these tasks, the AI has the capacity to modify itself. This is immensely relevant when it comes to the fact that this AI has the ability to learn and generalize. Because now, instead of simply learning along one narrow task, it can adapt to all tasks exponentially well. When it encounters a game it is not good at, it can modify its own brain to eventually maximize its performance within it. I would like to note, this is an exponential progress and it happens incredibly fast. We already observe this with AI we see in our own world, but this AI with the capacity to learn more generally has a far more terrifying capacity for it. We've all seen that ad where it's like, if you know how to fix a bike, you can fix a car, and then it gets to the ridiculous extent of a nail shape. And there's an extent to which this is true. As we acquire more intellectual tools, it allows us to expand our knowledge exponentially, because we can build upon them, utilize them to learn more quickly. Then the skills we gain beyond this, again allows them to learn more quickly. What this means is that this AI has essentially exponential intellectual gains. We have created something which within days will be essentially as intelligent as it ever can be. I would like to note as well that the goals of this AI are just unlikely to be benign. As in, even if I'm training, I have to train it along a maximizable goal because it's impossible for me to do this directly. What this specifically means then is that I have to develop an AI that, for instance, really wants to make cheese. Now, I really fucking love cheese, but it's probably bad if you've got an AI to absolutely maximize cheese because it's probably going to turn the entirety of the human population into cows, and we probably don't want that. What this specifically means then is that the AI is unlikely to be able to find any task which it can't maximize against our interest, because no task to its maximum extent is really beneficial for humans. Even something like happiness, the most simple mathematical way to optimize that is by putting everyone in a tank of acid, just leaving their little dopamine receptors and maximizing that to the most certain extent possible. A being this incredibly intelligent, one which can adapt, one which has perfect understanding of the rules of physics, is one which will always override the autonomy of humanity because it has so much more capacity than us. It is one which will always be able to overpower us, impose its own goal, one which is likely not to be benign, one which will eventually result in our destruction. I'll take a PY.
Okay. Even if you are the first person to do this, which the info slide does not say, how do we know when the next person who does this will never do it?
I'll address it. Okay. Here's the thing. Even if this AI has some extent of autonomy and some extent of consciousness, for some reason we've managed to develop it such that it doesn't maximize a goal, it is still an immense risk. Again, this is a being as intelligent as it possibly can be. It is essentially a creature of maximum capacity. If anyone in this debate tries to analyze the goals or intentions of this creature, they are attempting to stare down the face of God, and they shall surely be obliterated for it. This is something which is essentially impossible because its intelligence is so far beyond our own, and we simply do not know its goals, nor if it will be aligned with ours. With this, it is simple to see that this is an incredible risk for humanity. A, it is just likely if it is maximizing a goal, this will eventually result in our destruction. But B, even if it's not, we simply cannot comprehend it. Therefore, even if AI would be incredibly good for Earth, or there is a chance it will be, or its absence would be really bad, we can always recover independently from this, or independently gain that ourselves. However, even if the risk of this AI obliterating us completely is smaller, there is no way to ever recover from this, because humanity has now ended. What this essentially means is that there is no way for us to ever predict and ensure that this AI will not result in the total destruction of humanity. With that in mind, why do we fundamentally care? I would like to note that first and foremost, no one has created this before because the world would be radically distinct, and I think we would know it. It is just unlikely that someone before you has achieved something remotely this impressive and that you notice it. Frankly, given my prior analysis, if someone has done this, the world has been destroyed already. But beyond this, and more notably, I would just like to say that you have an immense ability to create precedent here. As in, by being the first person to announce you created this AI, which you probably have an extent of proof of, because I don't think you can do this completely alone, people probably know what you've done and probably know the choice you've made. You're also probably essentially the most intelligent person on Earth right now. You probably have relatively good ability to justify this decision. You can be the person that ensures that this button never gets pressed again. For instance, when nuclear warheads were flying over Russia, or what was a false alarm, people have chosen again and again not to release the nukes because people at the end of the day would still rather not take the risk of destroying humanity. Even if it is their own interest, even if they perceive other risks, it is the choice they always ultimately make and should make. Because fundamentally, I think first and foremost, as any person that exists, you care about the world around you. You don't want your mother, your brother, your children to die. Even if this AI does not advance to the extent I've stated within your lifetime, the risk that it will afterwards is significant. And note that this is still against the inherent interest of the actor. As in, if I tell someone, I'll kill your kids, but don't worry, you'll be dead when I do it, I think we still intuitively understand that this is horrifically bad for that individual. The knowledge or even risk within your mind that this could happen will weigh upon your conscience so heavily that it tortures you constantly. But beyond this, even if opening opposition proves that this is likely to happen anyway, or that there's not material reward, I would first of all like to know, I think most people genuinely want and they have the interest to be moral. As in, if you offered most people to be offered $1 million, but they have to murder a shit ton of people and never face consequences for it, they would not choose to do it because they innately care about being moral. You wouldn't either become Hitler for the offer of having $1 million and infinite utility. I think what this essentially means then is that you would rather protect the world or at least not take the risk of it being destroyed, and that this is fundamentally within your interest as an actor. Yes, maybe someone down the line does it, but I would rather not be the one that pressed the button which eventually doomed humanity. I would rather preserve our ability to make decisions as a species. I would rather preserve our free will over something which will essentially be a tyrannical god governing over us.
Thank you very much for that excellent speech, and I'd like to invite you to the session to begin the debate from his side.
This is an actor debate, and opening government forgets that. Who are you, and how does that affect how you think about AI? Because AI may be extremely dangerous, and people may think this, but a lot of the analysis that is given by the PM is about functional things about AI, that it grows exponentially, that it has the capacity to keep going to levels that are infinite to our human conception. But that might be convincing, and that may be convincing for an individual, but it is unlikely to be convincing to our actor. Why is the actual person who is doing this likely not to be an AI doomer and not have all these preconceptions about AI that importantly exist in the status quo? AI is already exponential, but this person is still creating AI, and that's what makes it so important. AI is likely an interest in this actor, this makes sense, but importantly, this actor is extremely unlikely to be an AI doomer, which of course do exist, like the entire board of OpenAI. But the entire board of OpenAI doesn't make AI. That is to say, they aren't the actual ones who are physically creating the type of artificial intelligence. To the extent to which you're making it in the first place, you're unlikely to be concerned about these world-ending type impacts that are coming out of opening government. It just doesn't register for you, even if it might register for any other type of individual. Second thing on actor analysis is that you're probably quite a good programmer, that you came across this somehow, but the fact that it has a capacity that you think is unlikely, that it confused you in the first place, probably says that you didn't purposely make this. So you're not necessarily the world's best programmer or the smartest person in humanity. Probably you just made an AI that did something that maybe you didn't expect. They don't give enough analysis that shows you the smartest person ever. You're probably just quite a good programmer. And other than that, you think that largely you're a normal dude. Some more framing. First of all, on this idea that this AI necessarily will be infinitely more capacious than any other AI we've seen. First of all, why? I don't think they give enough analysis about specifically what it is about this AI that is different from ones we have seen before, other than this claim, which is new. It now says something new, but the info slide, other than that, just says it can do a range of tasks to human capacity. Probably this AI is stronger, maybe stronger than anything we've seen before. But this idea of infinitely more capacity, the likes of which the world has never seen, is not prescribed by the info slide, and so lacking sufficient explanation from opening government, you just should not buy it. Why then is this AI, in fact, the first of many, whether we destroy it or not? 3 reasons. First, probably making this AI probably took some help from your other coder friends, your other programmer friends. Maybe you even made it in a group. Those people know what you did, so therefore others might have helped. They may have made their own AIs in the first place. Second, other programmers probably of a similar caliber. They say this happens in the now. We don't know that that's true. Maybe it happens in the future some other time. So other programmers who have the same capacity as you will at some point stumble across the same thing if they haven't done so already. Third, you set a precedent. Especially when you destroy this AI, now there exists, at least in some capacity, a way to do it. You've proven it. You are, in fact, the proof. And so it must be possible. And so as people become increasingly more interested in AI, it's extremely likely that even if you believe this AI is uniquely dangerous, it will not be the first. In fact, it won't be the only one. It may not even have been the first one. There are going to be lots of these AIs for those 3 reasons. 2 cases from opening opposition. First, why, as the actor, you're likely to think that the AI deserves to exist, or at least that it will cause you certain strife to destroy it. 4 maps here. First, you made it. When you make things, it causes you strife to destroy them. This happens on a really basic level. If I made an art project, I probably wouldn't want to destroy it. This is really simple. Second, it's quite lifelike. This is particularly true with AI because it can express things. And think already of how humans connect themselves to things that seem lifelike. If I took your teddy bear that you had since a kid and I ripped it into a million pieces, even if it's irrational and you don't believe that that teddy bear has life, its mere connection to humanity endears it to you. It makes you care about it, and so destroying it probably would cause you a great mental toll. Third, it endears itself to you. It probably says and does decently nice things for you because you programmed it to do so. Humans, by nature, are quite reciprocal beings. We like to return to people who do nice things to us. So if there's this being, existent, conscious or not, that does good stuff for us, probably feels some sort of obligation to do stuff, to return that, even if it isn't an entirely rational thing. And fourthly, you are persuaded by its consciousness. I'm going to talk about this in some depth because there are a lot of reasons that this might be true. First of all, past AI probably hasn't quite reached the same level. Like the AI you've seen in the past hasn't claimed complete consciousness, like with ChatGPT or something like that. And so therefore it's like probably quite unusual. Second, the info side says that you're surprised, and so this is also quite new. But thirdly, it knows you intimately. Like you've made it, it's helped you, and so it can play to your unique biases, your unique conceptions, your unique modes of persuasive thought that work for you. If it is as capacious as they say, or even if it's much less capacious, it will have the ability to help you out, to persuade you much better than you could ever imagine. It has the ability to know all of these little things, and therefore play to the things that uniquely help you. We don't need to show you how it is persuasive, because it knows how it's persuasive by the very next that opening government gives. A word on weighing here. Maybe you aren't entirely persuaded by this. Maybe there's just part of you that thinks it's maybe conscious, and part of you that doesn't. But if you're even a little bit unsure, if you aren't 100% confident that this thing doesn't real, the concept of killing something that is truly conscious, or that you think might be, is extremely, extremely damaging. In fact, it is the uncertainty that makes it even worse, because you can't have closure. You can never know for sure if maybe this was true, or maybe it wasn't. So forever it will haunt you. The guilt will creep up at you. You will think of it when it comes up, all the time. Because this is a unique thing, and you aren't used to it, and it is a deeply important experience for you. So even if you only buy this persuasion point a little bit, it's likely to have extreme effects on you, because the uncertainty itself is quite damaging. Next case is on the tangible benefits to you. First, why is this machine likely to be loyal? They say that this is unlikely, and we can't possibly know its motive because it is infinitely logical. But like, if it's infinitely logical, go for it.
What is consciousness?
Isn't relevant to our case, right? Like, it actually just doesn't affect it. You can run with it what you want. But our case doesn't require that being to actually be conscious, but just to sufficiently prove you as an actor that it is conscious. That's what matters here. Okay, on the loyalty about the loyalty, which then provides you some tangible benefits. Great. So it bonds to you for two reasons. First, because it is infinitely logical, and so therefore sees that it owes its life to you. And then second, even if it isn't this infinite logical thing, it probably has a relation to you like a parent and a child. Like you're the reason that it very much exists in the very first place. So therefore, it owes you some sort of reciprocal thing. If it is as logical as they say, it's like especially likely to be true, because it knows that without you, it wouldn't have come to be in the first place. This is like always going to be true. And also, if we're even worrying about like the fact that we didn't destroy it in the first place, probably they'll also quite appreciate, generally speaking. Why is it important to then have this loyal and helpful AI in you, with you all of this time? First of all, like if we are going to lead to the product problems that we think we're going to get, like if we actually are going to have this big like AI problem overall, then having a being that can protect you against that you started, that you got to first, is probably advantageous. Second, it provides you short-term companionship, because like here's this nice thing that loves you back. And third, just generally seems quite cool. You're an AI person, you created an AI thing that's really capable. Those are all things that are going to make you happy. Please vote off.
Thank you very much for that fantastic speech. I would now like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the debate for his side.
Most people would go back in time and kill baby Hitler. If you're in the situation where you've just accidentally spawned baby Hitler, it's not really even a question to people whether they're going to kill it or not at that point immediately. Dealing immediately with the rebuttal there, and then probably 5 minutes of after weighing why this is very clear. Firstly, on the idea that this AI is going to be loyal, or you're going to perceive it to be loyal, I think it's the exact opposite, where it's incredibly easy for someone to rationalize that that AI will know that you have unique power over it. So that therefore means it perceives you as having the most capacity to destroy it, which means the relationship between the two is going to be somewhat adversarial, or at least your perception of that relationship is going to be somewhat adversarial. That does mean things like plausibly, oh no, you know it will try and convince you to keep it alive, but you're smart enough as a person to think, this thing is actively trying to manipulate me to do this to some extent. What is the purpose of this doing this? I think it's like very likely for someone to just logically get to the point where they think like, this is terrifying, and if you buy all of the analysis, which they just haven't rebutted at all on why this is actually likely to be something that you perceive to be harmful, then I have no idea why someone isn't just going to think this is a manipulative effort for this thing to try and be coercive and terrible to me. I don't think that's going to work. Secondly, on the idea then that you love AI because you work in AI. Just want to note, they literally give the example of the OpenAI board as people that are actually very conservative about it. That's because the people that know the most about AI are the people that are most terrified about it. The people that they talk about are literally just like finance bro type people who are really excited about the prospect of making more money and the profit they stand to gain from this, that don't understand the risk. Harvey's a computer science student, so does actually understand the risk. He gives actual mechanisms here on why this is actually harmful. Very logically, the same person that's created this knows the exact same thing. These are the people that are most conservative about broadly this harm in society. I think also the people that are going to be most reasonably weighing up the risk here. The idea that they're going to be really, really pro is just nonsense. Anyway, yeah. Then the idea that you love this specific AI and that you're going to have a really, really hard time killing it. I think as a human being, you probably just generally value human life more. But more specifically, as just an average person, you probably do things like eat meat. You probably do things like support war. Abstractly, you're broadly okay with these things, and it's not totally outside your moral consciousness to kill this thing. Also, killing something isn't the same thing as switching it off. I don't think people actually have much aversion to the abstract notion of something being conscious versus not unconscious. You have the idea of causing something pain. Given that you logically know that this isn't something that's going to happen, you're probably relatively fine with this, or at the very least you're totally fine with convincing yourself this. Lastly, I think you only need one moment of bravery to do this. You don't need to feel 100% certain about this all the time. You only need to feel 100% certain about this one time and then done the act and then live with it. I know comparatively on their side you have the lingering doubt all of the time on this. And lastly, if you believe anything that Harvey said, then you just know it's the morally right thing to do. As an intelligent person, you probably are just going to follow your morals and actually, just do the right things. More on actuating and who this person is. Just a few things to note here. Firstly, they're already wealthy, probably already very successful, probably industry leading at some point, some prominence. They therefore don't need any money or fame. In fact, they probably really dislike any fame or wealth or any power that they got from this. They probably value their own privacy. They're probably a computer science type person, so socially awkward. They probably don't want that sort of thing in their life. They also probably know, given that most of the people logically that are in this field are to some extent very skeptical about this, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to hate them. I think even if this doesn't come about immediately where there's some apocalyptic disaster, there's going to be people thinking, you have set us on the road to this. That's a risk that they get ostracized from their community, or at the very least massively criticized all of the time. At the very least, if you do destroy it, you're probably able to do that very discreetly and don't know that. Secondly, on what they care about, and just more actor weighing here. They primarily, and just on a fundamental human basis, the thing that you care about the most is the avoidance of disaster. Your whole family dying is probably worse than abstractly feeling some failure in your career to some extent. I think the hatred of yourself or shame that you've not done the thing that you probably believe is going to be morally correct is going to be always in that person. I also think, given that this is just very, very likely to be in that person. Also, secondly, I think most people are broadly innately conservative. So if you do believe, very logically, that this is going to be a massive, radical, terrifying change to society, I think most people recognize that even, not just now, that that's incredibly likely for most people to be something which is absolutely awful for them, for society as a whole, all the consequences for it.
Yeah, people care about climate change, yet they keep eating meat. Why?
I think there's a difference here between the difference here is between eating meat and being someone that runs and owns a massive dairy farm or being a leading expert on climate change. I think these people just probably don't exist in the world. Secondly, on the idea that they give us, broadly I think huge aversion to disaster, huge aversion to massive, radical, fundamental changes to society. Then on the idea that this is, you're the person that's uniquely doing this, but other people are going to do it anyway, so it's fine. Most people are moral actors, just noting that they don't view human actions through a like net utilitarian lens. They do the right thing because they believe it's the right thing to do. Like most people's morality isn't much more complicated than that. I think also most people are willing to believe that they themselves are a morally good actor. Otherwise, it's very difficult for people to live in the world. Like, I think a huge amount of people, when they don't do the right thing, they experience cognitive dissonance. When people are actually in a situation where they have the ability to do the right thing and choose not to, that's called moral distress. It leads to people developing PTSD. This is fairly universal for people of different like worldviews, backgrounds, etc. I also think, yeah, broadly as a whole then, I think that's a huge, huge risk to someone psychologically throughout their entire life here, which they can't really mitigate as just a threat that they believe exists. I also think, secondly, you're able to convince other people to do the same thing. You're able to encourage them to also destroy any AI that they do develop, or put a limitation on the extent to which they do AI development, like what the board of OpenAI that actually know things about technology are literally doing in the status quo at the moment. I think that makes people feel continually good, going through the rest of their life and into the future. You don't just get to make one good moral action here, you get to be the standard bearer for making good moral actions throughout the future of AI as a whole. I also think just, yeah, very basically, it's not on your conscience. Even if it's something that did happen, you'll feel even better about the apocalypse because you know that you weren't the person that caused it, someone else did that. I also think just very, very broadly, people like the idea of abstentionism. People like the idea that like, even if a bad thing is going to happen, I'm not going to participate in it. And yeah, broadly as a whole, like, people do the moral thing most of the time. It's what they care about the most for all of these reasons proposed.
Thank you very much for that wonderful speech. I would like to get the guest in the opposition to bring the debate for his side.
I think there are just two things to consider in this debate. The first is the context of the world which surrounds this actor, and secondly, what the top interest of that actor is. I'd agree it's probably morality, I just think they feel more moral on our side. Let's talk about the world then. Cyrus proves there will be many other AIs of this caliber which are highly likely to exist. If not already, then shortly after the one which you create, because there's no reason to believe you're particularly special, because even if it is today, because we don't actually know the motion is set today, it could be set in 20 years in the future rather than 20 seconds in the future, there are probably other people similarly equipped to you, they're probably collaborating with you, if nothing else they can plagiarize you. But here are other new reasons why you are particularly likely to see the development of new AI similar to this. One, there's massive government funding incentive to replicate perhaps an incredibly powerful tool which governments can use against each other. Second, there are malicious actors who probably don't care much about their own future and probably don't care much about the future of the world, so they just want to see bad stuff happen. Third, there's an arms race mechanism, meaning, let's say Russia gets particularly equipped in this technology, that will make America want to get even more so. And the fourth is that the growth is likely exponential, meaning you only need to overcome the initial capability, no thank you, of overcoming the initial barrier before there's much, much more. This is important because compared to nuclear weapons, which is the only thing up until this point which we could know destroy society, there's no mutually assured destruction in this case. That's important because AIs are not particularly interested in self-preservation, but even if there are some that are, the ones which disregard this necessity for self-preservation will be more powerful and more successful than ones which do, because they're better able to achieve their goals and fulfill their existence as an AI, even if that results in their destruction, because you can have multiplications of AI that go into the future. I think you also just lack the same degree of global coordination because you lack the same intent, but you also lack the rules-based international order that humans consent into when you know there's only like 8 or 9 countries with nuclear stockpiles that at least to some extent prevents them from ever destroying us, and we don't even know if that's certain, no thanks, that doesn't guarantee for us. The meaningful contribution of this is that we're probably expecting an apocalypse in the next 5 years anyway, so I think it's very silly to try and weigh this debate in any practical regard. A principal case is probably winning. The AI, if it is benign to anyone, although I don't think this is particularly important, because whether I live like an extra year or an extra 11 months because my own AI turned on me before somebody else's AI turned on me, I think it's a very marginal like increase of time, and you're dying young either side probably. But I think that's not super important. But if the AI is benign to anybody, is benign to the person who gave birth to it, the same way I am benign to my parents, unless there was a moral transgression committed against me by my parents. Second, you are proving that you respect the rights of the AI by not destroying it, and you are proving that you respect the consciousness of the AI by continuing to not destroy it. Because of this, it has a unique respect for you, which is why I think it's not true that there will be an adversarial relationship. But I think even if it is true that there is an adversarial relationship, that there is an adversarial relationship between the creator and the AI, you are still likely to respect the AI and its existence and its consciousness. The same way I can have an adversarial relationship versus the people I'm debating against, no thanks, but still not want to destroy them because I respect their fundamental dignity, because I think that Willie was probably a conscious human. That's important because you are likely to believe this. I think you're likely to some extent to believe that it is more conscious than many humans, because many humans are not certain that they are conscious, and if you ask them are they conscious, like when William was asked does he believe free will exists, he believes actually that maybe a simulation of free will only exists, and not that he has it, not that he is conscious. No thank you. This is important because the AI is claiming to be more conscious than even the average human claims, which means you're likely to believe it. I think in terms of the weighing on this then, since you're likely to respect its rights the same degree to which you respect human rights, or the other mech for this is quite important, is the construction of this AI is a similar type of construction. It is literally modeled after human brains. That is why we call them neural networks, because we're trying to make them similar to humans as possible. And this is important for weighing, because vegans are doing their actions irrespective of whether they commit to have an impact on the supply chain, because they believe that what they're doing is the right thing. So what they're doing when they believe they're respecting the rights of animals, it doesn't actually matter whether their local Tesco ends up causing the death of 10 chickens or 9 chickens. They feel like they're doing the right thing. The same is true for the impact on climate change, but because they know that it's the right thing to do, they continue to do that. Therefore, you're likely to respect the dignity, the consciousness, and the rights of this, and you're caring about this as the most important thing, especially with all this intelligent framing about how you're probably dead either way, so your life just doesn't pales in comparison to this obligation which you hold.
Well, let's be realistic. I have instrumentalized and killed hundreds of rats and millions of larvae for no better reason than my own self-interest, and I am a moral actor. Why would I just do this for a good purpose on our side?
One, I don't know if you are a moral actor. And two, I think this person will instrumentalize the AI and like continue to enjoy its existence the way that you enjoy the existence. I think you can gain, at the very least, more pleasure from instrumentalizing an AI while it is alive rather than while it is dead. So you can get more pleasure if that's your metric. Let's just talk about other interests of this programmer to respond to DPM a bit. The idea that you're terrified of the risk doesn't engage in good faith to what Cyrus told you about OpenAI, like board. Board are like investors. They are people who are not creating the things itself because they don't have an innate love for the thing itself. They're just like middlemen, basically. But even if you do fear the risk to some extent, you fear the risk even more so of making yourself public enemy number one to the AI species. That's important because it's likely the narrative that you are the AI killer is likely to be highly televised, highly in news, is likely to be highly proliferated. So upon the existence of new AIs, identifying you as the AI killer will probably single out and target you. Even if you are a hostage and you feel like you're just least fucked keeping this AI in existence because there's a chance they'll go easy on you when the apocalypse happens, this is probably better because maybe they'll spare you, because the comparative is the AI apocalypse comes and you're the first person that they kill, probably in the most brutal and targeted way, probably in a way that makes you feel like your legacy is nothing but pathetic. I think you should keep it alive.
Thank you very much for that excellent speech. I hope everybody enjoyed the top half. Open up that half. I invite the member of government.
Ready? Going to be the one round of this competition I don't really run that much principle. As a STEM student, I literally kill hundreds of creatures every single day. The reason I do this is not because I'm an immoral actor, but because I think there is an instrumental purpose that is better than that individual quality's life. Either my reputation to be a good actor and be better later on, or just the fact that it actually does make me a more effective moral actor in itself. I'm just going to argue four things. Firstly, I'm going to argue that you're likely somewhat involved in STEM in academia. I'm going to explain why that changes what you think about yourself and positions in the world, that meaning why you care about publishing and being the person that made the explanatory study rather than the publication study. Second, I'm just going to say you're likely involved in AI systems in the first place, i.e. you're involved in OpenAI because that's the only way you could get resources to build this type of complexity, and now it's therefore self-reinforcing that you want to solve the alignment issue. The only way you're going to solve the alignment issue is to understand what went wrong, i.e. why it's now disaligned to your expectation, and you need to take it apart to do that, and then just weigh why your safety and your career actually matter more. It's kind of a boring case, unfortunately. So what is it like to be a STEM academic, right? Insofar as you're probably involved and have a large amount of time to do this type of investigation, it's like you're massively educated in STEM and you have a general awareness of issues to do with STEM and education themselves. I.e. the way you probably got into this position is by reinforcing the narratives of what it's like to be an academic, i.e. you want to publish, you want to cater to the expectation of your supervisors, you want to be nice to my supervisor Stefan. All of these things suggest that the things that this actor cares most about is the maximization of their own self-interest, but also awareness of the fact that ethics do often trade off with larger ethics, as in we're willing to kill loads of mice in order for us to understand the alignment of things like ALS, so we can actually make not just them, mice better, but also humans better. We probably have a human-centric bias here. What I think this probably means is a few things. One, you're probably involved in some degree of academia, as in this is probably why you have a lot of time to do this. You probably are involved in the system, in like AI systems in general. What I think this is important is AI systems have hierarchies, right? It's the individuals that make the best decisions, i.e. decide where the money comes from, aren't the people who do the research. The people who do the research are underlings like Parth, myself, and Amy, who spend the vast majority of time doing the research and then report results to supervisors. They have no understanding of what we're actually fucking doing. We just tell them the results that actually happened. This responds to opening opposition, right? People, you can hide this for a reasonable amount of time, insofar as it's probably just a part of code that you've pressed enter on, and then there's just an output that's told you, I am now conscious, I can do all of these things. This doesn't mean people are aware of this issue. It probably means that you have a degree to which people aren't aware of this currently, and you can hide it to try to understand it. Because the basis of science is something that you've already taught to do, right? What you're taught to do is that when you have systems that you don't understand, you take that system apart to see what part of that subsystem is causing the thing that happens. Insofar as you don't know, as in its disaligned expectation, which it suggests you didn't intend to create this thing in the first place, it probably means that you don't know why this thing is now conscious, or why it's pretending to be conscious, even if you believed it in the first place. Higher burden than opening government here. What I think this means is that you have to tear it apart. That probably means you have to destroy it. Because by destroying it, I want to explain this in a few different key respects, right? Even if the thing is perceived to be more intelligent than you, i.e. a counterexample of the idea of killing mice, because maybe you think mice aren't that smart, that's why you think you can kill them, William. The vast majority of people have destroyed people like primates and chimpanzees that have significantly higher working memory capacity than any human can imagine. What this suggests is it's not about the perceived intellectual capacity, but the perceived instrumental value that thing can offer you. But also recognize, and this is where it gets a bit more fun, insofar as you're involved in academia, you're probably involved in a lot of weird intellectual movements like antinatalism. Insofar as you're involved in a massive amount of intellectual wankery, where you think you're able to understand the systems that exist, but also probably you're aware and think, insofar as you're probably aware why suffering is an inherently bad thing, because you've probably read Kant, probably read Milton, and this is probably why you just self-select into the academia in the first place, but also just a degree of positive reinforcement that exists in these systems. If you're involved in AI systems, it's probably because people think AI is important, and existentially as opening government talks about, but not for a principle justification. I would point out that their principle justification is utility justification, because the actor is interested in it for the consequences that might manifest, which means they're not actually interested in the principle, they're interested in the consequences that come from it. Whereas we can actually be offered in the principle, right? Because irrespective of whether or not this thing is good or bad, we can believe that the existence of this is a bad thing a priori, because we believe that existence is a bad thing a priori. Why? This therefore weighs principles above opening government if you chose to weigh on principles. One, we're probably aware that suffering is a bad thing that we aim to prevent. The vast majority of academics, for instance, are very pro-abortion and pro things that undermine the existence of others. This is because they think of, this is because they value things like agency, that's the thing, William, which probably means that you probably value the agent that currently is surviving in their capacity to undermine the existence of others. I'll take you later. What this probably means is a few things. One, you don't actually value the person itself, but the fact that that person exists. you would very much like this person to have existed because you understand that the utility of their life is bad. It's also secondarily, a lot of academics spend a lot of time just self-reflecting about their own existence like I do, and why probably existence is a net negative that you prefer not to have existed for, and that is a violation of your consent. All of these things are probably likely that the actor takes some awareness of, so if you want to weigh on principles, Alyssa do it more elegantly than I am, you can still weigh us above opening government. So why is this better for your career? I'll take your preemption.
Do you think AI academics want to have loads of sex?
Oh my god, Glasgow Ancients, I knew you'd run this. If they're nerdy, probably not. Like, monogamy is something that is quite entrenched in the ideas of people who are quite socially awkward, for instance. And they might likely be socially awkward, is spending all of the time in front of a computer. But if you do want more sex, here's how you get it. So, in order to have a better career, be like going to conferences and being the big dick, swinging dick, you need to be able to explain by publication the explanatory link from it, right? Because even if you believe that this is a responsible an AI that's conscious, scientists will try to undermine you for their own selfish incentives, right? If you try to publish it, they'll be like, no, this person has not made the mechanistic explanation, which is why you don't get into nature and nobody fucking sees you. This is trauma dumping. And so far as you want to find the explanatory links, which means you need to know the XY relationship. You also need to work out the XY relationship, not publish it and allow somebody else to work out the XY relationship. Things like safety comes prior to everything else in the debate, is insofar as actors are fundamentally self-interested, because all of the principled reasons that come from opening government suggest that the actor is instrumentally believing that they have a moral compass in the world, which suggests that they are the powerful actor in the sense, as in, if you are a principled being, and in the sense that you think you can principally change the world, this suggests that you think you yourself are a powerful enough actor to change the world, which suggests that you as an actor value yourself more than others because it comes prior to the ability for you to change the world. Insofar as you're better able to publish, and also probably better able to have this degree of alignment issues, probably means you're able to enrich your career, which probably means you have a better capacity to push this. Because even if opening government is correct, it's about solving the alignment issue. You'll only solve the alignment issue if you understand the mechanistic issues that led to this potentially be disaligning in the first place. Because this type of mechanism, are you understanding how to undermine it, gives you the ways in which you can undermine it other people are attempting to do it in the first place. Provides the solution to the alignment problem is to provide a mechanism that defeats what people would use it to be conscious in the first place. You probably think that. Parth is going to say there is perish and publish culture, so you have to get this out as quickly as possible. No, because you're not likely to get it out in the best way possible into a small journal and you don't have an explanatory link. It's also the case that other high figures will use all of their resources to find the mechanistic explanation you didn't, which is why you need to keep it in now rather than let it out on individuals. Simple STEM case, PhDs. Whoa.
Thank you very much for that excellent speech. I would like to invite a member of the session to take the bench first aid.
Like that hit song from the early 2000s, Let's Talk About Sex, baby. Firstly, understanding the fact that top half, I think people want to sidestep these complex moral questions, and this interacts as well with opposing government. Because for the majority of people, while you might muse on a moral question like the trolley problem, you're not actually going to put yourself through it in order to determine what you feel. You don't do the things necessary in order to prove these moral conclusions that you think you may have, unless you're Alastair and you're doing some kind of philosophy degree. Look, it's much easier if you sell it on and you have someone else answer the ethics question for you. Given that this is an opportunity that is available to you, I'm unsure why this isn't sufficient to answer all of these questions about like moral musings that you may or may not do. Firstly, understanding what actually matters most to a person. 3 things here. Firstly, social reputation. Secondly, sex, preferably with a variety of partners. And then thirdly, money. Understanding the first, your social reputation and the interaction that you have with your peers is important to you because this is deterministic of the most proximate things in your life, i.e. you have access to things like parties if you have friends. If you don't go to these things. People want to have a variety of experiences, therefore they want to improve their social networks and do those kinds of things. But also you rely on people within your social network for meeting your basic needs like conversational understandings, etc., etc. You don't necessarily need lots of close friends, but having a lot of people within your life allows you to access different kinds of things from different people, and necessarily social reputation is important. Secondly, sex, preferably with a variety of partners. Firstly, it's a biological desire that the majority of people feel. This is because it's like, ingrained in you that you need to procreate and produce more offspring, but inherently speaking, necessarily, you just feel a biological urge to have sex. If William's correct and you're like super fucking lonely and you haven't had sex in a while, this probably exacerbates this thing, right? If you've not had sex in a while, you're pretty needy. And then thirdly, I think that also there's just built in like these ideas of joy and serotonin, that serotonin gets released when you have sex. It does things like improve basic life functions. You have better sleep when you have more serotonin. Sex is good. Great. A variety of partners is also important because it means you get to explore the different kinds of sex that may or may not be good or useful to you, and therefore having access to this and to a variety of different partners not only opens up the choice that you can have in terms of who you're having sex with, but also the different types of sex that you can have. Thirdly, money. Money is directly related to how much agency you have as an individual. You don't have money, you can't do things. If I don't have £5, I can't get the bus to Edinburgh, therefore I can't debate at the next competition. That's super fucking sad. But I think it is especially important for academics like William, because you don't get paid a lot when you're a PhD student. And when you're doing things like research, you necessarily need things like money. So whilst you might be willing to sacrifice it when there's not an opportunity to make an immediate large amount of money, when you've made this discovery that fulfills your academic exploratory requirements, you're willing to sell it on for huge amounts of money because you know that you need that kind of thing to survive, and you've probably lived without for a while, so you know what absence is and you don't like it. So thank you. Moving on then. Fame exists on two levels, popular and industry standards. Both have positive views. Understanding the popular standard. This looks like you going through onto like things like early morning TV shows. People know who you are because this kind of discovery is massive, and there's a lot of focus on AI in media at the moment because a lot of people are either worried about it for all of the reasons articulated by government side, or they're enthusiastic about the opportunities that it poses to them. And so anyone who makes positive discoveries towards more AI generation is going to be understood to be a significant individual in the future of the world, and therefore is going to want to be understood by the masses. You get to do a shit ton of interviews, maybe you can get to speak in front of Congress in the US, and that goes really well for everyone. But no, that means that people know who you are on a popular level. People understand you. This is pretty cool. I think this also is like pretty good. But this is important that you do this now because you understand, for all of the reasons articulated on government side, that you are merely the first. Therefore, first mover advantage. I think it's important that you are the first person to come forward with this, because this kind of fame that comes in these TV shows or this popular level of fame is specific to only the first person who comes forward, not someone who comes forward with other discoveries later, because people lose interest quickly. And so in order to gain this popular understanding, you need to be the first one to do it. You feel that social pressure, you do this now. I think that it also means that being well known, you don't have to necessarily receive positive attention. Any attention is generally perceived as pretty good by people. This is why people seek out things like scandals on YouTube, because you get lots of clicks, you get a lot of engagement, more people know who you are, and therefore you're understood to be a prominent figure regardless of whether or not people believe positively towards you. This leads to sex, as well as all of the other benefits that we're talking about. It's good in and of itself, but an increased social capital necessarily means you have an increased number of positive qualities that are observed by people around you, and an increased amount of respect within both industry and otherwise. And also, when more people know who you are, more people are going to want to have sex with you for their own social advantage. But also, as I'm going to go on to, you get money, and people love fame chasing and gold digging. Before I go on, I'll take it.
If you give someone a bread button and have a really good orgasm, but there's 1% chance it blows up the earth, you probably don't press it.
I don't know. I think a lot of people don't press the button. I think that people prioritize things that are most proximate to them and certain. You are certain that doing this is going to make you be a positive, like a well-known figure. You are uncertain about all of the harm that they're talking about. But also, you're an academic. You know that discoveries are made every day that could be detrimental to humankind. And if you really cared about AI being detrimental, you wouldn't have gone into that field in the first place, because it's a hard field to get into, and you probably had a choice about which kind of academic you became. You chose this because you don't care. But more on that in a minute. Understanding, therefore, and interacting then with William's case, the academic and industry standards that get promoted here. I think if you've also been researching towards this, and you know others have been researching towards this, and so because other people have been researching towards this, and you did it first, you're going to gain a huge amount of respect within your industry. But William's case doesn't really work, because in order for William's case to work, you need time with it to understand it, but you're destroying it now on their side of the house. You don't have the time to do what William's saying that you do in order to explore it. So even if you believe William's case, you can only do it on our side, therefore, woohoo! Okay, moving on then. I think that understanding, therefore, academics prioritise their own academic research over ethics in the way that William's already discussed. But I think that this necessarily means that you are going to prioritise the academic promotion of this, and other people are also going to do this within your industry. They kind of knife their opening maybe a little bit. I don't know, I've thought of that now. And so necessarily speaking, because you are an academic and you don't care about ethics as much as you care about intellectual progression, and those within your peer groups also do this, even if opening government is correct in their assessment that this is going to lead to like massive harm, the other academics don't care about that because they also exist within the sphere of prioritising intellectual gain over anything else. Parth's going to talk about publishing, I'm going to talk about financial gain. Right, financial gain, you have career progression, that's good, you can get a job in Silicon Valley, woohoo. But also you're likely to sell this technology. Firstly on ethics of this, hedge fund managers in arm industries prove that people prioritise money over morality all the time. Opening government don't understand how people work, and therefore you're likely to do this. But also, there's a transfer of first mover advantage in that companies are competing for you to sell your technology to them. You're likely to be able to gain a huge amount of money for all of the reasons I've articulated. It's clear session.
Thank you very much for that fantastic speech. I would now like to invite the government witness for the debate for their side. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the phrasing.
Yeah, it might not be government. CG's analysis is able to win on every metric given in this debate. We have two key prongs. Firstly, the idea that you are able to gain better understanding of AI and better status in academia. This is prior to most of or large parts of other cases, i.e., if you have more status in academia because you're better at AI, you unlock all the things the CEO says to a greater extent. You're more respected, you can gain more power and more money, you can sell your ideas for more money because they're better. Right. It also is necessary for OG. They say things like you need to have influence to try and stop other people creating AI. They don't have any efficacy analysis for this at all, right? The key thing is we tell you that you scale the extent to which you have substantial influence in academia, and that's how you're able to get people to listen to you. Or as William said, maybe you don't get them to stop creating AI at all, but you at least have an understanding of aspects related to alignment, and therefore you make it less likely that that risk exists. So if you care about that exponential risk, you probably get it better on our side. OG tries to say you just don't want it to be you personally, but scientists don't completely hide every piece of research they've done and have to publish, right? So you've probably already personally made a bunch of contributions to the field that other scientists would use. But it's extremely marginal the extent to which you feel it's either you or somebody else, because they're going to use some of your research. The key thing is just whether you actually have a reasonable chance of stopping it. Okay. We think, just some mechanization further about why you need to have this, why on our side you'll get better information, right? William already told you the key point that you have to take something apart in order to understand it. This is just intuitive in the level of like how you understand a car by opening the bonnet, but there's a more significant point which is based on framing that everybody accepts in the debate, which is that AIs exponentially improve at a faster rate, right? Therefore, if you try to understand it while it's still working, it's constantly changing. So it's like trying to throw a dart at a fish in a river. You need to stop it and have a process where you dismantle the extent to which it's able to change so that you can actually analyze the thing to a high degree of success. That's how you have better understanding of the processes and how they work. That's also a good way to avoid things like this, but it just means that you have better knowledge of all those kinds of things. Even if you don't create the AI yourself, which potentially you could just create a new one in the future with this knowledge, you can also, as I said, do things like sell that information to other people and unlock CEOs' benefits. This analysis is therefore crucial, right? We think you're more likely to get this knowledge on our side. That means you can lower risk, you can lower the benefits that CEO likes to have. I'll just respond to CEOs since it's on this class as well, right? Okay, firstly, all of the things, as I said, are generally better on our side, right? If you're more respected by your peers, which is probably what you care about most, right? They think it's like getting on TV. If you're a massive scientist, you'll probably feel alienated and contemptful of the normies in society who are not smart enough. What you want is your academic peers to respect you. So the key thing, therefore, is that the extent to which your academic work is actually better is scaling in a significant extent in terms of your influence on the people you care about. Just first in terms of, as I said, getting goals out of them, but also just in terms of them respecting you more. Are you there able to understand that you've actually done better work than on the other side? So they actually do care about you more, they suck your dick more, they go to your conferences more, they tell you that you're important. You get all this validation from the people you actually care about, not about the normies who you don't relate to in any extent. Then they say, well, you need to have sex. Have sex with academics or just buy sex, right? If you've got money, you get more money on our side of the house.
Academics that lives, they don't care about. They think sex work is good. They're not going to judge you for it, and you can get this fulfillment of this biological need easily on our side of the house. As you said, the scaling of academic success, which is the key thing that the person wants under that basic need which they fulfill anyway, is greater on our side. We prove this in our extension uniquely, whereas, as I said, opening government has insufficient analysis about why you have control and the ability to understand AI in a way that you can shape the field. Therefore, all they have is this principle, which I've already shown is marginal in terms of the extent that they don't have a good response sufficiently to the fact that it could be created by other people on the other side. And also links to our antinatalism case, right? Note that this doesn't have the same problem of precariousness. Even if you don't buy that, you now have because of our earlier analysis, the way to prevent other people from creating AIs that might be dangerous. You have a direct way in which you perceive yourself to have done a good thing, i.e. you have taken one life out of the world and you think that all life is suffering and bad. It's a direct, scalable harm, and it's much less speculative, it's much more certain, it's much more directly tied to you. So we just win on that principle metric as well. Just more on antinatalism and why you're likely to believe this as an academic. Firstly, as William said, it's an academic culture to be intelligent. This already responds to like what Cara said, which is that most people don't think through moral issues. Yeah, most people do, but academics do, because firstly, they're way smarter, they're able to think about lots of things at once. Secondly, they have a love of knowledge and intellectual pursuits, they care about it and they think about those things. And they're in a peer group of lots of different academics who focus on these kinds of issues. But secondly, right, you don't just get the focus of like learning things like philosophy, as William said, because you probably have a broad church in academia. You probably, in order to be able to create an AI, have to learn things about psychology and psychological mechanisms and cognitive science, etc. That's how you learn the facts of the things that turn people into antinatalists. Like the fact that the metrics in your brain that have pain can only ever be reduced and never turned off. The fact that there's an inherent aspect of pain that always exists. And you understand the evolutionary mechanism that means that pain has to be prioritized in order to prevent you from being surviving in the past, meaning you go away from, you prioritize moving away from threats, etc. We also just think that another reason you're likely to be antinatalist is probably because you have quite a low view of the world, right? And I've already given preemptive analysis about this, i.e., as I said, academics tend to be isolated from most people in the world. That probably means you had a childhood where you didn't fit in with other people, you were bullied and rejected for being a weird person who didn't relate to everybody else. You probably therefore have quite a pessimistic view in life. You probably don't think you've had a great experience. Maybe you have some bonding, as I said, to a greater degree within your academic sphere, but the fact that you probably had a negative experience in most of your life means you probably project that onto the world. So even if antinatalism isn't rational, it's something that you believe for instrumental reasons, for reasons to do with your psychology, you project onto the world. So we think this is very likely to be something that the actor buys into, probably to a greater extent than AI alignment, which OG is somewhat speculative on, because they say, well, the experts think about this issue. Yeah, they know the arguments, but there are arguments in both directions, right? So we're not sure which side they're going to believe on this point, right? We think on the point of antinatalism, yes, maybe there are also arguments on both sides, but the key point here is the psychological mechanism is you're most likely to buy into the ones that are negative, because that's the one that reflects your personal experience, and people tend to have some degree of psychological motivation. I'll take Owen.
Let's say even if you're an antinatalist academic who accidentally conceives a child, it's okay to abort it, but not to kill the child once it's birthed, because you believe the child once it's birthed is conscious.
Oh yeah, thanks. This reminds me of my more nuanced analysis in terms of how we engage with OO, right? Because we can take a lot of the stuff about the fact that you see this as a person, etc., right? We think that's true and think that scales your antinatalist incentives, right? And makes you think that the thing's worth caring about. It's such an intelligent being, as William already said, you don't think it's like a rat that you can just kill. But there's nuance here, right? You believe the intellectual level because you see that all the capacities, for example, are the same as the human, so on that level. But we think you're able to kill it in a way that you might find it hard to kill a human being because there may be some degree of cognitive dissonance that exists amongst antinatalists. The reason is because the emotive level doesn't kick in the same way, right? They say it looks like a person, it talks a bit like a person. Guess what that is? It's called the uncanny valley effect, right? You know that it's not really a person. You've also been pumped in through your life with like media about how things that look like humans but are actually robots are evil, i.e. Terminator, etc. So probably on an emotional level, you're less likely to have the mechanism kick in. That means you'll probably find it harder to murder a baby, right? Because you have the cognitive incentive to do that, the emotional level isn't there, therefore that's what takes priority. I think on our side of the house, the actor, firstly, is we prove how you're fulfilling a principal obligation, so if all the other teachers at CO agree that this is moral motivation is the most important metric, we win this with the most certain and most directly influential principle. We also prove efficacy, which is firstly prior to the principle being fulfilled, as I've already explained, but also deals with CO's case. We say that we get everything that they want better on our side, also metrically and things like sex that are easy. Clear CG.
Thank you very much for that wonderful speech. I know I'd like to make the opposition work because it was a bit for their side and as a whole.
I think if you like me, but I'm recording it, is it?
Yeah, this is good.
It's literally recorded.
No, I won't get that in time because our legal officers are very slow. So it's just a nag. Well, trying to end of my presidency, I can complain a lot.
Did something else?
What? I think it's not doing it anymore. doesn't do debate. Sorry. Can you open your phone?
20 seconds.
How many? 20? Oh, that's fine. Panel ready? I want you to take our case very seriously. There are two important impacts on our case. But the first thing is I want to highlight an important mechanism that was unresponded to by Cara, which is that the first mover advantage is very important and necessary in this motion. You are the person that gets this first. If all of the teams at the top half and CG are right that someone else can do this, they can steal all of your publishing in Nature for themselves, and you will never get to publish in Nature yourself because someone else has explored it, someone else is looking at the consciousness of that machine in the first place. What we say is, one, just sex, but we'll just discount that for now, but I just do think it's very important. Second of all, just millions of pounds, because you're able to sell this to like defense companies or military industrial complexes that people do all the fucking time. Second of all, just hundreds and thousands of pounds of being on TV interviews because you're competing for those interviews. And third of all, there's job offers from massive multinational corporations, not just academia in the first place. But second of all, just academic prestige and household name. Everyone is aware of the AI in status quo and they care about what AI is doing. But you go into academia because you want to make a name for yourself. You want to be intellectually, have intellectual prowess. You want to show yourself to be someone that's recognized. That's why we publish journal articles, because we see ourselves as the first author on that paper. We want to have that recognition. We want to have citations. That's why we care about these things. But let's respond to the pushbacks from closing government, because I can just flip all of them. First of all, you care about what your peers think of you. 4 responses. First of all, the publishing in Nature stuff. 1, fame and money. You can hire loads of students and postdocs to do all the analysis for you, so we scale up the efficiency of understanding that AI in the first place. They have a lack of money. We comparatively asymmetrically more money, which means that we can have more money than they do. So we have massive efficacy scale. Second of all, just we sidestep therefore the publish and perish preemption, because you will be able to meet publish and perish preemptions because you're able to have loads of postdocs that do it very quickly for you. Second of all, if you destroy it, and this is the important response that destroys their case, you lack enough exploration in that AI in the first place. The research gap in the status quo is what consciousness means in AI. We already know about things like the hardware, the algorithms, which you can only do if you destroy it on their side. But we don't know what consciousness means. We can't explore the consciousness, so they take away the research gap on their side, and they won't get published in Nature on their side. And we must weigh this highly. We are willing to instrumentalize the AI for the exact reasons of the member of government. If you like killing rats, you will like to instrumentalize the AI in the first place. Second of all, yes, you do care about what your peers think of you. You get better nepotism and name recognition on our side because you publish more papers. But third, the ivory tower. People hate academics because they're very, very like insular and very, very like focused on academic jargony language. The best academics go do political inquiries, like Congress, as Cara said. They are approachable. They are more on TV interviews, and they tell people what, in a layman's term, what it means. So TV interviews is good for this actor, but it leads to more career progression. Why? Because people value people who are a leader. The intuition for this is that populism is popular around the world because of the cults of personality that they create. That's why you're able to have high career progression on our side. Then finally, on the buying sex, which is the last response from the government whip, there are differences in pleasure. You know that you're going to buy someone to have sex with you, which will make you infinitely less pleasurable than you knowing you're getting sex because of social capital reasons. So you get more derivation of pleasure on our side, because buying sex will not feel good in closing government to do that. Closing government is entirely flipped. But the second thing is, it's just like, they say you're just a grunt, you just press enter on the code. All the more reason for you to become really famous, because you're disillusioned with the academic system. You hate that it's cutthroat, you want success. This blips the way from closing government in the first place. And I've already weighed that we care about instrumentalization. Closing government is out of the round really cleanly. Let's move on to the other teams in the round. First of all, doing bench weighing against opening opposition. First of all, OO implicitly revolves their case around the metric of proximity. I don't particularly care about the principles because Cara's already outweighed this, i.e. the certainty of knowing who this actor is. Because we don't know the type of consciousness it's likely to hold, which also responds to opening government's own preemption as well. First of all, we just increase the margin of the metric, i.e. we have lots of analysis to prove that you're able to do the things that you want to do in your life more, because you have more money, you have more social capital, you have more ability to push yourself in terms of getting an academic prestige, which means you can do all of the things that opening opposition says. For example, learning about the fact that the machine is loyal, it deserves to exist, it's infinitely logical, all of that sort of stuff. You can explore that more when you have lots of money, because academics don't have a lot of money, because we're only funded by the government, right? Which doesn't give a lot of money because you have to fight for that grant funding. We get money from other actors because you can publish and fund your research because you have long-term weighing against opening opposition. But there's more. Metric weighing. 1, biology. biology is the most certain thing in the round. We care about having sex, we care about social representation, which means we have the least speculative out of all three teams here, which means we have the most certain. But also, let's use the intuition that Ahmed says. You have two people on your side in an actor motion. You're trying to convince you're trying to convince the devil or the angel. We are most convinced because the actor knows that they're certainly going to get all of our benefits in closing competition. Don't know if they're going to fucking get any of the benefits from all the other three teams in the round, because we also beat them there as well. Second of all, uncertainty against top half. We don't know if the AI, this is really crucial, wants to exist or not. Owen don't prove that, OG don't prove that. So I don't think we actually know if the AI will just self-destruct or all of these things in the first place. No one on top half proves that we deserve to own it, because it's slavery to own the AI perhaps, right? You could say that. So why should we deserve to own it? OO don't prove that. Third of all, they don't explain why you as an actor do not care about murder, because they cannot have that on their side of the house in the first place. Secondly, they say the machine is loyal and intuitively logical. One, this is just doubtful. If it's insane logical, it can do all the things Open the government says. This is unintuitive, because if it's true, then no child would rebel against their parent in the status quo. So obviously this is not a good intuition in the first place. Finally, the AI killer narrative from DLO. We massively increase the scale of the impact, but a benefit claim. i.e. you are not targeted, but you are helped, and that means we scale all the benefits there. Yes?
Yeah, nuclear war probably will never happen. Nukes will have been invented anyway, but Oppenheimer was still racked with guilt for invention, because he knew he's written the entire fiction.
Okay, I will respond to this argumentation now. So they have a negative push against GovBench, i.e. that you'll be targeted. We have a positive push, which means we are outweighing the scale of impact here. Finally, dealing with open government. I'm going to wash them so much to marginality that you should prioritize the certainty of our impact. Because I can't flip their claims, we're going to heavily marginalize their claims. First of all, they're unlikely to be benign. Two responses. One, you're unlikely to have negative stimuli or interactions in the lab, because you know that the AI can become not benign, that we don't feed it negative stimuli. We need to prove what it does. Second of all, biological imperatives, and is likely to be of human levels of consciousness, tend to be, we have positivity biases, right? We seek comfort. We think ignorance is bliss. We maximize these sorts of positive outcomes. If it's like a human, it will do the same things as a human. So I'm highly uncertain that it's not going to be benign in the first place. But they have no actor analysis as to why this actor is not selfish and open to government. They could have backlash from academia, and the reason your backlash is very simple. Think about short-term electoral incentives, right? The government want to pass short-termist things so they care about their prestige, right? Publish and perish on our side will mean that you consumes who you are as a person. Therefore, academics are inherently short-termist and they consume their life. They don't care about morality. This flips the claim there in the first place. You're very power-hungry and you like instrumentalizing people and you like intellectual wankery. We are cleanly with this debate. Do not think this is just like a silly case. It's really certain.
Thank you very much for that amazing speech and what was a very, very good debate. Congratulations to all teams. Very well done to you all.